Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Dave, and I am a grateful member of Al-Anon family groups. Many of you know me from another fellowship. You might know a little bit about AA. I'm Dave, an alcoholic as well. And I love this opportunity to do a couple of minutes of what Al-Anon has meant to me, and be able to let you know that I'm also an alcoholic. When I go to Al-Anon, you would rarely know that I'm an alcoholic as well. In honoring their traditions, I share about the effects that alcoholism has had on me. Loving an alcoholic has had on me. And I'll say this, I was affected by alcoholism long before I took my first drink. My mother's father drank himself to death when he was about my age. He drank himself to death by the time he was 54. So I never appreciated where her fear came from in my disease. I never understood her over-concern and her complete worry. And I don't have a Beverly Hills bottom, but I certainly don't have a Harlem bottom. I'm somewhere in between. But I have a brother that went deep. He went down all the way. And I remember her crying and just being upset. And it never really registered to me how much pain it is to love an alcoholic, an active alcoholic. And it's funny, Al-Anon has completely changed the after-death relationship I have with my mother and father. Because when I did my 9th step with my mom, I really did the best I could. I with all the insight that I could muster, I went and apologized to her. And then this disease affected my family. And I realized how far I fell short. I mean, I wasn't even in the neighborhood of understanding. And what happened to me is this. I got sober, and it's weird. In my sobriety, I had those two famous, in my drinking, I had those two famous lines, leave me alone, I'm not hurting anybody but myself. Wow, has that been changed? Has that changed, the way I look at that? And so where my Al-Anon start is this. About 6 years ago, my son was involved in a car accident. He had my car without permission, and he totaled it, and thank God it was a single car accident. He didn't get hurt, nobody else got hurt. But let me tell you, I would have been embarrassed for you to see me that night. Totally embarrassed for you to see me that night the way I behaved. I was so angry, I was so rageful that the police did not arrest Nick. And believe that's pretty rare. A stolen car, accident, he didn't even get a charge filed on him because I think they were like, man, kids, you got to deal with your old man. That's going to be enough punishment, really. And, I look back on that as my starting point because that's where I was a good AA for about 13 years. And somewhere between 13 and 15 years, I just stopped going to meetings. And I went on this sobriety trip. I just didn't go to meetings. I moved from Tulsa, Oklahoma to California. I didn't like AA here, blah, blah, blah. You know that story if you're like me. I just co-signed all my own bullshit, and before I knew it, I was on this dry run. So here I am realizing that I'm angry enough to take a drink. I am angry enough to drink at this point. I'm at wit's end. There's been years leading up to this with the trouble of addiction in my family. And Denise and I started this Al-Anon trip, and we went to Al-Anon. And my Al-Anon recovery kind of sounded like this, to Nick at least. Nick, would you please stop drinking so I can feel better? Really. would you please stop drinking so your mother can feel better, so she can stop crying? That's what it was. You know, Frank, our Friday night speaker, talked about the doctor's opinion, where he talked about alcoholics need a program that has weight and depth. The sentence before that reminds us that frothy emotional appeals seldom suffices. And that's all I had to offer my son, was a frothy emotional appeal. Weight and depth, the only weight and depth I could come close to is wanting to drown him in a swimming pool with a weight. You know, I had, that's the only weight I could come up with. And it's important for me to talk about how shameful my behavior was, because there were times I would have blamed my alcoholic for that. I would have said, it's your fault that I'm behaving that way. And I couldn't stay there. There's a paragraph in the Al-Anon Welcome that says, without spiritual help, living with an alcoholic is too much for us. Our thinking becomes distorted by trying to force solutions, and I was forcing solutions. And we become irritable and unreasonable, and here's the key words, without knowing it. I just didn't realize how sick I had become. I'm an untreated alcoholic with an alcoholic son, and I'm telling you, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. This is really raw for me, and I can't believe I didn't bring any Kleenex up here, because I know what happens to me. Before I go one thing further, I want to do one thing. I want all my Al-Anon friends to stand up. My number one. That's my home group. I mean, that's amazing. They spent money to be here. Breakfast with Dave, as Jerry would say. So this really is raw for me. It's really raw. I got more raw emotionally. Thank you, Vicki. Gosh, I love it. Could you get something a little softer? This is raw for me because maybe part of it is my last drink was 31 years ago, and I got here the same way that Ron shared, with that glass pipe. Richard Pryor trained me how to get really high. And so maybe it's partly that, or maybe it's partly that it is true that without anything to anesthetize myself, this is the most painful thing I've ever walked through in my life. And I'm going to try to give two examples to some of the young people in here. I got sober when I was 25. And I had no real understanding of how my alcoholism affected my family. And I'll say this. The two things that come to mind for me when I felt absolutely exposed was Denise and I were at Trader Joe's, and we ran into one of our son's old friend's mom. And she harmlessly and with interest came up and said, "How's Nick doing?" And I wish I could have had a photograph of my face at that moment, because I just felt invisible. I felt like she could see into my soul how broken my heart was, that this beautiful kid got lost in this world that I had no power over. I could do nothing to rescue him. I tried everything. I went crazy. I was the phone call maker. I was the, we're going to get him in treatment again. We're going to do that. He never asked for it, but I was there. And yeah, when she asked that question, I looked at Denise and I just saw her face too. That oh God, it hurt so bad. My heart is so broken. And I don't know what this poor woman thought, I just asked how he's doing. I think we both looked like we got hit by cars. But that's where I lived. That's where I lived. That's where I was. My heart was broken. My heart was broken. And I was more powerless over his addiction than I ever was over mine. In my own, I always felt like I had some control. I was the final say. I was the decision maker. And I can remember lying to myself that I could quit anytime I want. I just don't want to. All the things that I responded to with my family. And the second example is
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308 or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
And I hated this about myself. People would come up, our kids were getting college age, and people would come up and they'd share something great about their kids, and as happy as I was for them, all it did is expose my broken heart. And I hated that. I hated that about me. I didn't want to feel that way. But people would share about some success that their kid is having, and all I could feel was a broken heart. My first sponsor in Al-Anon, Johnny M., He got me going. And he just kept saying, Dave, do you really think that your higher power wants you to mortgage the rest of your life based on what your son is doing? And I said no, but I couldn't shake it. We had such a peculiar relationship. I love my son. I mean, I always have. But he had the right to dislike me. My behavior was inappropriate. I was just this angry guy. So we had this angry, loving relationship. It was pretty strange. And this was going on. I can remember I had my head so far up my rear end, in denial. It was just like the sun could not get to my thinking. And I know that my wife was waking up before I was. I was doing the other, just smoking dope and drinking a little bit, and she was onto it. She was onto it. And, for me, Al-Anon has been like a Gus Van Sant film. Gus Van Sant does all those films where the person being rescued rescues the rescuer. And that's my story. Here I am, a dry, untreated, angry, absent man living in this bubble of shame, failure.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
Just kind of dead on the inside. And Al-Anon started bringing me back. What I love to hear about in Al-Anon, that there are no musts in Al-Anon, and it is a gentle program. Because when I started to learn the principle of detachment with love, or as Pat would say, release with love, that felt like abandonment to me. I never wanted my kid to think I didn't care. And the miracle for me, and the gratitude for me, is I got here before I was so angry that I couldn't salvage that. And I know that happens to a lot of young people in sobriety, that their families are just so angry and so disappointed, there's no making that up. And I got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to talk about one of the most amazing discoveries as a parent you make in Al-Anon. And that is, if you can find them, you have other children. And we were about 3 years into the program, and we went, oh my God, we have another kid. We have another kid who got the weather reports of what our other kid was doing. And it's like, no wonder the kid would come over to our house, and in 7 minutes he was crawling out of his skin saying, I gotta go, and who could blame him? And this last Christmas for whatever reason is always, well, I know why it is, because it's a big deal to my wife. Christmas is always a big deal. And Nick got released from a treatment center one day on Christmas Day. Remember that? That was awesome. And it was. His grandmother was there. Annette from the 6 a.m. came to the party. It was just this great event. And that's what Al-Anon started getting me into reality, and I started to be able to breathe and find my life, to stop forcing solutions, find my family, find my marriage. I think really what I said at the beginning, I would have been embarrassed for you to see my behavior. I really mean that. I was sick. I was angry. And Denise, I think there were times that Denise was more afraid of me than she was of Nick. I think she was more upset at me than she was with Nick. She could see that he's getting high, where what's my excuse? I'm just this angry guy who's not being any help at all. So I look at our marriage, and it's amazing how Al-Anon has just transformed our marriage. I am back. I'm still not completely out of the what ifs. What if I didn't stop going to meetings? What if this? What if that? You know, I'm not there. Where I'm at, where I'm trying to live, is gratitude. And I got to tell you, you know, the speakers all weekend have touched me. Your weight and depth reminded me of my frothy emotional appeal. Tiffany, your talk last night, you know, the survival to recovery. You know, that's by the way, that's my favorite book right now in Al-Anon, Survival to Recovery, about growing up in alcoholism and overcoming the destructive, what do they say? Rage, sex, and destruction. You know, that's what children of alcoholism live with. So I'm walking my way through this path and out of this path. And I hope to continue to be a bridge between Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, to kind of bring it together. I don't like when I go to one meeting on Friday nights and the Al-Anons introduce themselves and they go, "Get a rope." And I'm like, you don't know who you're messing with. You mess with this table there, you're going down. You'll be cut up in little pieces. I'm grateful to Al-Anon. I'm grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous. You did for my kid what I couldn't. Stand up, Nick. Come on, Nick, stand up. This is my wife, Denise, who I could not have done this without. I can't believe she stuck with me all these years through it all. I love you, baby, and forever grateful. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.